Hi everyone, welcome to another Animal Alphabet Challenge. In this week's video, we're tackling the letter N. So we're just going to have a go at drawing a numbat. And for those of you who don't know, because I didn't know until I looked up what this thing was, a numbat is a kind of squirrel-like creature which is found in Australia. So just like a squirrel, it has a beautiful bushy tail. But unlike a squirrel, or at least the squirrels we get in the UK, it has these wonderful stripes going around its body. It's got a different shaped head to a squirrel, though. And so I think this is probably going to be the most challenging animal that I've done on the Animal Alphabet Challenge so far. So it's going to be a good exercise for me to try and capture the character and the proportions of this little creature, because it's not something I'm familiar with at all. And like anything, the more we draw a subject, the more familiar we become with it. And so, if I was to try and draw a cow or a person, generally speaking, I would find it easier to do so in a few lines than if when I'm trying to draw this little numbat, because I'm simply not familiar with the anatomy of this little thing. So I'm taking the approach I would if I was drawing anything else, and I'm just trying to keep things really quite simple. So it's a really good tip that if you feel kind of a little bit overwhelmed with, it could be anything really, a landscape, maybe it's a complex piece of machinery, or maybe you're trying to paint a crowd of people, or an animal you're unfamiliar with, as I'm having a go at here. Obviously I'm drawing, not painting. Then it's a good idea to really break things down to the basic shapes and lines if you can. Now the tail is quite fluffy. It's really very, very squirrel-like. So I'm just putting some dots which follow the rough silhouette of that tail, and we'll come back and deal with that in just a second. Okay, so next up then, keeping in mind my simplistic approach, try not to cover what I'm doing with my hand, but so I'm going to put some shadows in the ear, and we'll do something similar for the other one. And then when we've done that, I can see that I need to adjust the line of that ear a little bit. And then the shape of the head is quite critical for this little guy, because it's got quite a subtle curvature to it. And we can actually see a little bit of his right hand eye, he's got quite bulbous eyes, and then there's a little bit of cheek just popping out there. The nose is quite long and narrow, and at the end, the little nose, little dark nose there. So the snout, I should have said, is long and narrow, I guess. The line of the jaw there, that's not too bad. And then he's got quite a strong line on his fur where it goes from light to dark there. So I may come back and enhance that in just a second. Right, so let's get this eye in the right place. So there's the right hand eye. The left hand eye is a little bit higher because of the way the head is tipped. It's about there. So these big bulbous dark eyes, and then there's a line of dark fur here, and it goes back there. So that patterning is almost like the badger, but obviously this is a very, very different creature. Okay, so the head's worked reasonably well. Now if I squint at my reference photo, I can see that this entire front area is in fairly gentle shadow. So then the shadow gets darker on the left-hand foreleg there, and it's a little bit lighter on this right-hand foreleg. So I'll probably come back and darken those in a bit, but back here, this rear leg, it's really quite dark. There's a bit of shadow there. It's really quite dark under there as well, and dark there too. And then we need to give this little guy a branch to run along. Put a bit of shading in there. Not too concerned about that bit, it's just to place him somewhere. Right, and then we need to continue with what we were doing. So, got some nice shading in there. I need to add a little bit of shadow, a bit of tone rather, on the back. And then this bit, this is where he's got these wonderful stripes, so I'm going to have to be a little bit more careful here. So the temptation when we put stripes on an animal is to draw a single continuous stripe, but it's generally much more effective to break the stripes up a little bit, because if you find that that's not working, you can always, fill the gaps in. But once you've done a full stripe, it's a little more difficult to break it up. So it's starting to come to life a little bit now. I need to tackle the tail next. So I'm beginning by going round and trying to capture some of the fluffiness of the edge of the tail, varying the marks I'm making. And then within that tail there are areas of light and dark, just like there are elsewhere on the animal. So the darkest area is actually up near the tip. And then it becomes rather paler. So that's worked reasonably well. What I need to do now is just refine some of this foreleg area, and then we'll be close to getting things done. But I need to work on the head a little bit first. That ear needed a little bit more definition, and the area above the eye there. So within the darker shadows that I put down originally, there are even darker regions. And so I'm picking out some of those. And then I just need to draw in a couple of the little claws on that front paw, and the same for this one. And then I think we'll leave that one as it is. That's our little numbat complete. Hope you enjoyed this little video, and I hope to see you next week for episode O of the Animal Alphabet Challenge. Thanks very much for watching.